Now, Georgia Republican and member of the House Armed Services Committee, Rich McCormick. Congressman, I want to get your reaction to really the news of the morning seems to be that Special Envoy Wickoff putting Article 5 security guarantees possibly on the table. What is your read on this?
It's interesting. When I was in the NATO parliamentary system, we were talking about Article 5 for NATO nations to extend it into Ukraine is ironic because that's the whole purpose that Putin said was his reasons for invading Ukraine to begin with. He didn't want them to become part of NATO. Now, obviously, Finland and Sweden recently were cleared and joined during my tenure. Finland's fought a war with Russia and defeated them on their border. I think that's one of the reasons they're going to be there. I think Europe, well, knowing what Europe has said in NATO about Russian aggression and having them actually advance bases closer to the European borders of those NATO nations is something they don't want to see. They don't want to see these partial successes by Putin because it only encourages him to do it again and again. And remember, he's not just talked about Ukraine. He's talked about Lithuania, Estonia, the Balkans. He's been a very aggressive leader of the nation, and there's no time frame for him leaving office. So this could go on for the rest of his life, and that's something that Europe's very concerned with.
It's a good point, Congressman, because at that press conference, we did get the old sort of rhetorical complaints about Western encroachment on Russia. It's been Putin's sort of song and dance all along. We'll see if that factors into the meetings tomorrow. Let me ask you, though, I thought Secretary of State Marco Rubio had a quite powerful interview this morning on Sunday Morning Futures, talking with Maria Bartiromo, basically saying, like, where we are is at the point where both sides are going to have to give something and both sides will have to get something. Here's what Secretary Rubio had to say. I want to get your reaction.
At some point, a decision has to be made if a peace deal is possible or not. If at some point it becomes clear that both sides are so far apart and so dug in that we're just not near a peace deal, then the president will have a decision to make about how much more time do we invest in it and what actions does he take then.
And that's a great point because obviously they are far apart. They've been far apart. This war's gone on for 3.5 years. What do you make of where this is headed?
Well, it's ridiculous. If you look at the fact that Ukraine has already given up all of Crimea, most of the eastern portion of their country. Russia's asking for more. Putin's very savvy when it comes to negotiations. He always negotiates from a point of strength, because if he's going to compromise, that means it looks like he's giving something up. He's not giving up anything, and that's the problem. That's why we haven't been able to move the needle on this. Zelensky, on the other hand, when we visited him, said, look, this is our land. They invaded us. Of course, they did it during Obama and Biden's tenure. He even said that if President Trump was president, we would have never invaded to begin with. The problem is President Trump won't be president forever. And this, once again, just shows weakness from the European standpoint, that as soon as they wait us out for the next weak president, they're going to do exactly the same thing. And we've had these agreements in the past. In 1994, we signed the Budapest Accords, which said we would come to Ukraine's aid if they were ever invaded. And that didn't just include us, that included Great Britain and several other countries, to include Russia.
When, Congressman, as a former Marine, you understand battlefield strategy. And as we're showing these maps on your screen, you can really see that eastern Donbass area and Donetsk and Luhansk, which actually what Ukraine would be giving up is Kramatorsk, which is where they have set up their command headquarters to defend that eastern Donbass line. But as someone who's been in Ukraine during this war, reporting beyond of the Donetsk region is really flat, opened farmland all the way to Kharkiv. You can see Kharkiv, a key city there, really hard to defend should Putin decide to agree to a deal and move quickly to advance that line.
And once again, it doesn't make any sense from the standpoint. Think of it as your country. If you were in Ukraine, if this was your country, and what it means to give up major areas of territory to actually put yourself in a weakness for the future, I just don't see that. And that's not Putin giving up anything. This is, once again, a bad actor who's never proven to be a friend of America or a friend of the world, with only a $2 trillion GDP. Remember, they have about a 2.1, 2.2 GDP. Texas has a 2.7 GDP. If we combine Europe and America, it's about 50 trillion. We should be kicking their butts. We should be putting major sanctions on them. I hope the president's getting tired of his rhetoric and his falsehoods.
Hey, Congressman, let me just shift gears quickly for one last question, and that is the situation here, the crime crackdown in D.C. We now hear the news that 3 additional states are going to send National Guard troops, South Carolina, Ohio, and West Virginia, sending people to help. We're seeing over 240 arrests here since this crackdown began. What are your thoughts on that?
It's going to work. Anytime you show force, criminals are going to back down. The question is, what about the mental health people, the folks that are in these big encampments? When you put them in jail, it really doesn't fix their problem unless you make it permanent. We don't have sanatoriums anymore. As an ER doctor, one of the things that frustrated me is I would treat these patients, we get them well, we put them back on the streets, and they do exactly the same thing. They attack people, they be violent, they use drugs. They're unstable people. The question is, what is our permanent solution? It's not going to be just troops. We have to have some sort of treatment for the mental illness that's driven this horrible crime wave in America.
Yeah, and I think, how do you sustain this, particularly if the crime continues to go down? Congressman Rich McCormick, thank you very much for your time. Have a great Sunday.
You too. Semper Fi, my friend.
All right, Semper Fi.